very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us today this morning and watching Smart 24 TV. We are saying we drive your business, and we do this 24 hours, 7 days a week. Now you can catch the show live every single day at 10 a.m. This is Financial Markets, and we look into the global, regional, and domestic equities and give you the latest updates coming in from these companies. Who is giving out a dividend, who is not, who has made a profit, and who has made a loss. And we offer for you investment opportunities there in the financial markets around the globe. And you can follow and be part of the show through our social media. You can go to our Twitter, that's at Smart24TV, and follow. And you can also follow me on my personal handle, that is at Anthony Sebale, and you will catch the latest. Remember also to check out Altex East Africa, and this is a platform that they are bringing you to bring treasury bonds closer to you. Now, treasury bonds are transferable debts to government, and with Altex East Africa, we are bringing the secondary market of treasury bonds closer to you through making it accessible in mobile money. Now you can dial *292# and following the prompts, you can be able to register, learn more about Altex East Africa and their products. You can be able to also transact money from your mobile phone onto Altex and buy treasury bonds with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Altex, more money, no hassle, and your money, your future. You can absolutely do something new. Thank you so much once again for joining us today. It's a Friday, and I hope you're ready for the weekend as we wind up the week and get to have a look at what's been happening in this week. It has been a busy week in US. It has been a quite mixed reactions from traders here in East Africa and a couple of other exchanges around Africa. And we are here to give you the latest and the quickest information coming in from the stocks around the globe. Getting off to the Uganda Stock Exchange on Thursday, there was a little bit better trading in terms of the volumes compared to Wednesday tradings. Now on Thursday, the day was 16th of March, there was only 3 companies that did trade on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and these were MTN Uganda, Uganda Clays, and Umeme. In total, we had at least 8,612,700 shares that were recorded on the 4th day of trading. Now, this volume, rather this turnover, was from a volume of at least 69,000 shares that were traded. Now, the volumes improved at least 60%, and the volumes improved rather 127%, and the turnover 60%, including, of course, the biggest gainers and losers for the day. The current market capitalization of the Uganda Stock Exchange is 20 trillion Ugandan shillings. Now, in aggregate, at least 3 equities participated in the day's trading, all these being domestic listings, and with one of them actually losing value, as we shall see later on. Now, amongst the gainers, we had Nation Media Group, who gained at least 3.68% of value, up to a price of 426.98 Ugandan shillings per share. And we had East African Breweries Limited at a 2.87% gain, up to a price of 4,947.78 Ugandan shillings. Kenya Airways gained at least 0.18%, up to a price of 110.50 Ugandan shillings. Now, when you look at the bottom losers for the day, fortunately, we had 4 bottom losers, with the Jubilee Holdings Limited stock losing the biggest amount of value. Now, Jubilee Holdings at least shared off 5.01% and down to a price of 4,760.25 shillings, was the biggest loser for the day. And when you look at Equity Bank Limited, the most valuable stock on the Uganda Stock Exchange as well, lost at least 1.34%. Equity Bank Limited closed at 1,218.91 Ugandan shillings. MTN Uganda, the only participant in the trades that was actually involved in a price movement, lost at least 1.32%. To currently the lowest pricing of the stock in 2023, 172.69 Ugandan shillings. Now, MTN Uganda recorded at least a volume of 23,890 shares that were recorded. This was the second biggest volume for Thursday, after Uganda Clays, who had at least 32,630 shares that were traded on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, MTN Uganda, remember yesterday, BAT1 was a gainer on the Tuesday tradings. And if you follow the stocks there, we had a couple of things going on for MTN Uganda, and we have quite a couple of things that currently MTN has been undergoing. Well, the reports were of course released showing that MTN Uganda had a 20% profit, and when you look at the current figures, it's not being portrayed what's really happening in the books and what's happening on the stock market at the moment. We don't know what sentiments the investors could be having at this point in time, but definitely not depicting what we would be expecting. Now, MTN Uganda, we're talking about a stock currently that is trading at exactly 172.69 Ugandan shillings per share. This is a 2.31 shillings drop from Wednesday trades at a 1.32% depreciation in value. Now, the stock currently had at least 23,890 shares traded, valued at 4.13 million Ugandan shillings. Shares outstanding were at least 22.4 billion, and these were valued at 3.87 trillion Ugandan shillings, which is a slight decline from the market capitalization last year, which was on average at least above 4 trillion Ugandan shillings. That indicates what MTN Uganda has actually been going through in the current economic times on the Uganda Stock Exchange. At the moment, also, MTN began the year with 180.0 Ugandan shillings on the 3rd of January. And with the 172 shillings, currently they're counting a year-to-date loss of 4.06% on their counter there of the Uganda Stock Exchange. And this is the 9th year-to-date performance, the 9th company in terms of year-to-date performance on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, MTN Uganda is currently maintaining the second most traded own stock position in terms of trading on the Uganda Stock Exchange in the last quarter, or in the last 3 months, dating way back from the 12th of December to the 16th of March 2023. Now, MTN Uganda has recorded at least 20.5 million shares within this period, valued at 3.7 billion Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average of at least 326,182 shares that were traded per session. Now, a volume high of 9.89 million shares was actually achieved within this same period that we are talking about on the 3rd of January. This was the opening date of 2023. At the moment, MTN Uganda has at least a very regular activity on the Uganda Securities Exchange, with tradings of at least a daily frequency over the last 5 days on the Uganda Securities Exchange. So on Monday they had trading, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all through to Friday. And actually on Wednesday, if you noted, only MTN was actually a participant in the trading. So there is still interest in the stock, and so this decline in price could be an opportunity for you also to get into the MTN stock. Think about it. I told you about this last year when MTN Uganda stock was actually down to 160 shillings. Many people couldn't believe that MTN could actually pick up and go up to 180, 185, 190 shillings later on in the year. But that actually happened, and it could be happening again. And it was just around this time last year, just around the same time, that MTN stock actually got to decline to over 160 shillings. And after that, we never saw it below 170 shillings. So that is value, that is long-term value, and that's the vision that I want you to see as a shareholder, the vision I want you to see as an investor in the stock markets. Away from MTN Uganda, Uganda Clays had participation in trading on the fourth day rather of trading on the exchange. Now, Uganda Clays Limited is the oldest listing on the Uganda Securities Exchange, with its listing dating way back in the year 2000, and this was in the month of January on the 18th. Now, the company currently holds at least 13.5 billion Ugandan shillings market capitalization, representing close to 0.068% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. Now, this makes the company the 15th most valuable on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, Uganda Clays closed Thursday tradings with a price of 15.0 shillings, with which, of course, starting with the same price for the day, and the 32,000 shares accrued at least a 489,000 shillings turnover from the trading. Currently, Uganda Clays, of course, boasts at least 900 million shares that are floating on the Uganda Stock Exchange currently. And when you look at Uganda Clays trading over the past 3 months, they have at least had a total volume of 1.11 million shares, making them the 5th most traded on stock on the Uganda Stock Exchange. When you talk about Uganda Clays, it has a very rich history on the Uganda Stock Exchange, and in terms of issuing dividend, they have also been consistent, and just a few ups and downs here and there over the last couple of years of their listing. But they're a profitable company. They deal, remember, in construction material, especially dealing in the clay products such as max pans, roofing tiles, and the like. And this is a business that is not about to go down. Real estate business in Uganda is one of the most booming businesses around. And so when you talk about Uganda Clays being a key player for over the past 10, 20 years, that means something. And so you are looking at a stock that is quite secure, quite safe, and you can actually believe that this stock is going to go up anytime, and it's going to go down anytime, of course, but definitely according to the history, according to what we have so far on the table, it is one of the most investable stocks as well currently on the Uganda Securities Exchange. There's been a lot of news about Uganda Clays and NSSF, and those issues are being settled out, but it's nothing to do with the current performance. It has nothing to do with the current performance of the stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. At least through the eyes of investors, the stock is still valued at 15 shillings per share, which is the price that it began the year with. So that gives you assurance that investors are still trusting Uganda Clays and definitely will continue to do the same. Now, away from Uganda Clays, Wumeme also had a volume of at least 13,325 shares traded, with the stock closing at 300 shillings per share. Now, Wumeme Uganda is a company that is in charge of distribution and the distribution of electricity, the distribution and supply of electricity within the country. The company signed the concession of at least 20 years actually in 2004 with the government of Uganda. That concession began in 2005 and will expire in 2025. Now, Wumeme issued a notice that they will be exiting Uganda in 2025 on the 30th of March. So that is, of course, precedent. That, of course, means the precedent is delisting from the Uganda Stock Exchange, and delisting has a procedure that we follow. Well, the stock has maintained a very high pricing, with investors currently very interested in the stock, and the supply currently was also limited because of people holding on to their stock at Umeme. I don't know what we are not seeing, but definitely there could be some benefits that the shareholders are looking forward to as the company gets to the list from the Uganda Securities Exchange. The 13,325 shares that were recorded at least had a 4 million Ugandan shillings volume accruing from it, and 1.62 billion shares continue to be afloat on the exchange for Umeme, and currently the full capitalization of the company is at 487 billion Ugandan shillings. Now, Umeme in the past months has maintained the third position in trading, and currently is the third most Uganda Securities Exchange with a total volume of 17.9 million shares. These are valued at 5.02 billion Ugandan shillings in the past 3 months, meaning Umeme is currently the number one company when it comes to turnover in the past quarter. Interestingly, the Uganda Securities Exchange benchmark index, or the all share index, paired at least 0.08 points. This was a 0.07% depreciation in price. Now, currently we have 1,151 points on the all share index. Weekly losses of 2.01% are currently counted, and at least 5.23% in the last 1 month, and 5.07% in year-to-date performance. That gives a picture that the stocks have generally gone down in the past 3 months, in the past 1 week, and in the past 1 month. So that's the picture of 2023 currently. In terms of the pricings have fallen slightly, and of course these are mainly driven by the cross listings because they are more volatile, as they are prone to the foreign exchange rate and other influential factors that come from the listings from the primary stock exchanges, mainly Nairobi Securities Exchange. The US local company index, consequent of the decline in price of MTN stock, also declined at least 0.73%, down to 267.25 points on Thursday. And that's my friend, the trading from the Uganda Securities Exchange. Remember, you can trade on Uganda Securities Exchange by simply opening an SCD account or a Securities Central Depository. Now, this account gets to help you access the market. You can do this also through your stockbroker. Stockbrokers are licensed bodies or entities that mediate between you, the investor, and the stock exchange. You can be able to buy shares through a stockbroker, and currently under the rulings of the Uganda Securities Exchange, you do not access the capital market without a stockbroker. So those are the current conditions that we are dealing with. So you must find a stockbroker who is suitable and be able to start your journey of investment on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Off to Nairobi, and in Nairobi Securities Exchange, the all-share index continues to be in the red after it lost at least about 3.4% on the tracker of the aggregate performance of all the 65 listed equities. Now, the Nairobi Securities Exchange all-share index closed at least 106.81 points on Thursday, after having shed off at least 3.81 points. In total, we had 48 Nairobi Securities Exchange listings participate in trading, ending the day with 12 gainers and 25 losers. Crown Paints Kenya at least led the gainers with an 8.57% share price appreciation, closing at 38.0 Kenyan shillings, and he was followed by Car and General Kenya with a 7.33% gain, and Olympia Capital Holdings with a 5.86% gain. Nairobi Securities Exchange at least had 4.18% gain in price as well. On the losing side, however, we had Flame Tree Group Holdings, who came out last with an end of day price depreciation of at least 7.35% and closed at 1.26 Kenyan shillings per share, and KCB Group at least 7.29% was lost off their pricing. Safaricom continued to lose further value, and this is a concern to investors, especially on this stock, because it currently wipes out over half of the entire Nairobi Securities Exchange, and currently their stock is falling from grace. Safaricom has been the biggest stock on the Nairobi Securities Exchange for as long as I can remember, because it is a stock you cannot talk about NSE and not talk about Safaricom. And currently things are a little bit worrying for investors at Safaricom on Nairobi Securities Exchange. It continued to lose value on Thursday, at least 5.56% downwards. And when you look at their current pricing of 17 shillings, that is after a very huge one. When you look at the last 4 weeks, 28%. In the last 3 months, over 31.5%. And the story goes on and on. It's a very great decline in performance for Safaricom on Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now, these drops in prices could be attributed to foreign investors. There has been a very huge influx of foreign investors on Safaricom stocks and generally on Nairobi stocks. And these usually are not very good to rely on. Whenever something happens and maybe they have a fear of something, they sell quickly and then try to move out and go into other stocks, probably other investments like treasury bonds that are much safer. And this leaves the stocks to the mercy of these investors who are selling off in the panic mode. And this could be one of the things affecting Safaricom currently on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. However, Safaricom is still maintaining their first position in terms of trading in the last 3 months, recording at least 452 million shares over the last 3 months at 9.8 billion Kenyan shillings. That is Safaricom kind of remaining resilient there on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. As well, when you look at the participants in trading for the day on Thursday, Safaricom led the biggest movers with a 39.5 million shares volume, which was the biggest they had at least for this week. Absa Bank followed suit at a 3.08 million shares volume, and Equity Group Holdings at a 1.75 million shares volume. Cooperative Bank of Kenya at least had 1.02 million shares. Now, regarding the performance of the NSE market indices, the benchmark NSE All Share Index plummeted 3.81 points down to 106.81 points. That is it from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to cross over to the United States and have a look at the biggest markets in the world. Now, the US stocks rallied early afternoon on Thursday as the report swelled troubled bank First Republic is in talks with the multiple larger banks in a takeover, which could potentially forestall with what investors feared would be the fourth US bank to fail in less than 2 weeks. This is following, of course, Silicon Valley Bank, which was the first one to fall earlier last week. Now, near 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the stocks remained near session high, at least S&P 500 up by 1.5%, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average higher by 1%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite higher by 2.1%. Markets opened lower this morning. When you look at this morning on Friday morning, after the European Central Bank surprised investors with a 0.5% interest rate hike, a move suggesting that central banks will remain focused on pushing the inflation down inflation, with the ECB called too high in the statement this morning. The Federal Reserve Bank is set to announce their latest policy decision next week. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, the show is brought to you by Altex East Africa. And with Altex East Africa, we say you can do something new. Simply dial *292# and follow the prompts and be able to enjoy access to the market through your mobile phone by transacting money off your mobile wallet onto Altex East Africa. And that's it from us, my friends. A lot more is coming ahead on Smart 24 TV. Just stay tuned and keep watching. And make sure you follow us on Twitter at Smart24 TV. Follow me at Anthony Sebale. And definitely you will get the latest updates in the world of business. See you next week. Have a very lovely weekend.